I feel still very shamed about it because I was raised.
These are the times when people banty around that.
Sally Field has long been celebrated as a powerhouse in Hollywood, winning 2 Oscars and starting off as America's TV sweetheart. Yet behind that success was a home life marred by tension and shocking secrets, including a damaging stepfather and a fraught, high-profile romance. From the early roles, she struggled to escape to the sizzling chemistry that propelled Smokey and the Bandit. Her journey reveals a woman rewriting her own narrative. But perhaps the biggest surprises came when she finally spoke out about the messy truths behind that 1970s classic and why she cut ties with Burt Reynolds for 30 years. Sally Field was born on November 6, 1946 in Pasadena, California. Her mother, Margaret Field, was under contract with Paramount Pictures, while her father, Richard Dryden Field, served in the Army. Their divorce upended Sally's childhood. Soon, her mother remarried stuntman Jocko Mahoney, whose presence brought not safety, but trauma. In her memoir In Pieces, Sally revealed he abused her during her teens, leaving scars that shaped her view of men and trust. Despite everything, she found solace on film sets, where the magic of Hollywood offered a glimpse of stability she lacked at home. By high school, she was lighting up stage productions, mesmerizing classmates with her innate talent. She caught the eye of a talent agent at a high school party and enrolled in a workshop that tested her skills through intense drills. Acting became her emotional lifeline. At 18, she landed the lead in Gidget, 1965, playing a bubbly surfer girl. The show lasted just 1 season, but reruns turned it into a favorite. Then came The Flying Nun, 1967 to 1970, whose quirky premise, Sally as a nun who could float, proved wildly popular. Yet she felt caged by these shallow roles. Determined to break free of her squeaky clean image, she took a daring turn by appearing topless in Stay Hungry, 1976. It didn't transform her image overnight, but it showed she was serious about upending expectations. Rather than accept more sitcom offers, she spent 3 years honing her craft at the Actors Studio. This dedication paid off when she landed Sybil, 1976, a mini-series about a woman with multiple personalities. The role demanded draining emotional work, yet earned her an Emmy and upended the public's perception of her forever. Sybil's success was a breakthrough, but also left Sally exhausted. She wrestled with an eating disorder, questioned her place in Hollywood, and worried she might be forever cast aside. In 1977, she was offered Smokey and the Bandit, a script she found silly. Burt Reynolds, then an unstoppable box office titan, insisted she join him. Sensing their chemistry might salvage the weak story, she signed on. Filmed in Georgia's punishing heat on a modest budget, Smokey and the Bandit became an unlikely juggernaut, raking in $126 million. Audiences loved the carefree spirit, the roaring car chases, and especially the playful dynamic between Sally and Burt. She'd gone from the flying nun to a leading lady in one of the decade's biggest hits. Yet, as the movie soared, her off-screen relationship with Burt grew complicated. From the outset, sparks flew. Sally was 30, newly validated by Sybil, while Burt was 41, confident and charming. But their attraction came with tension. She noticed he relied on pills and odd injections. When she urged medical help, he dismissed her concerns. Their relationship swung from moments of intense closeness to bouts of emotional distance. Jealousy flared when Sally garnered too much attention. They broke up and reunited several times before finally cutting ties. For the last 30 years of his life, they barely spoke. Burt later called her the love of his life, but the damage was done. Professionally, Sally soared. In 1979, she starred in Norma Ray, portraying a Southern mill worker who stands up for workers' rights. She immersed herself in real textile mills, capturing the grit of everyday labor. Her riveting performance won an Oscar. Though Burt offered lukewarm support, she forged ahead. In 1984, she won another Oscar for Places in the Heart, delivering that memorable line. "I can't deny the fact that you like me right now. You like me." It reflected her deep relief at finally being taken seriously. In personal life, she married Stephen Craig, with whom she had 2 sons, and later producer Alan Greisman, with whom she had another son. Both marriages ended in divorce. Amid these upheavals, she never lost her focus on challenging roles. In the 1990s and 2000s, she kept showcasing her range, from Mrs. Doubtfire and Steel Magnolias to Broadway appearances and Brothers and Sisters, which earned her another Emmy. She took on Mary Todd Lincoln in Lincoln, 2012, a role she fought to secure, proving her persistence again. Then, in a 2022 interview, she offered startling Smokey and the Bandit confessions that Burt was her worst on-screen kisser, sloppy, drooly, and that she almost refused the role altogether. Fans were stunned at the gap between their sizzling on-screen rapport and real-life awkwardness. She confirmed that the film's success owed more to improvisation than the terrible script. Their final rupture remained permanent, overshadowing memories of that blockbuster synergy. She also used her platform for activism. After her son Sam came out, she championed LGBT+ rights, challenging state laws that allowed discrimination. Her 2007 Emmy speech railing against war got her abruptly censored, but she refused to back down. Speaking truth was something she'd learned to do from her earliest traumas onward. Sally Field's life is about constant reinvention. From a home overshadowed by abuse to a Hollywood that wanted her to remain a doe-eyed darling, she consistently broke free of constraints. Smokey and the Bandit seemed like fun escapism, but its behind-the-scenes tensions mirrored the stormy romance she tried to salvage. Ultimately, she walked away, dedicating herself to family, acting, and advocacy. That worst kiss revelation symbolized how surface glamour often belies private pain. Whether battling personal demons or winning multiple Oscars, Sally Field has shown that adversity can fuel remarkable growth. As we revisit the iconic grin of Burt Reynolds and the unstoppable drive of that black Trans Am, we should remember the woman behind the wheel, one who chose to reveal her vulnerabilities and stand by her convictions. In an industry that thrives on illusions, Sally continues to set herself apart by telling the unvarnished truth. That choice, as much as any award, is what defines her legacy. Although Sally Field's early life was marked by turmoil, she harnessed a singular drive to make acting her haven. Even after Gidget and the Flying Nun introduced her as a lovable sitcom presence, she fought for more complex material. Turning down easy sitcom roles for nearly 3 years was a high-stakes gamble. In an industry obsessed with typecasting, such an extended absence could have spelled doom. Instead, it led her to the actor's studio where she studied method acting techniques that emphasized emotional authenticity. That authenticity was on full display in Sybil, which required her to portray a person splintered into multiple distinct personalities. Filming those scenes took a psychological toll. Sally often returned home feeling shaken, uncertain whether she could separate herself from Sybil's torment. Yet the public's reaction was transformative. At last, viewers and insiders realized her capacity for wrenching drama. Then came Burt Reynolds. Although their relationship offered a flash of excitement, it quickly devolved into tension and suspicion. Friends observed how Burt would light up a room but darken in a moment if he felt overshadowed. Sally later said she'd never experienced such a potent mix of protectiveness and possessiveness. Smokey and the Bandit felt like a risk, but her comedic instincts proved just as sharp as her dramatic chops. Filming chased them all over Georgia's highways, with a tight schedule that demanded long days of shooting. Sally's background in improvisation helped shape comedic scenes that the script left underdeveloped. What critics called effortless chemistry with Burt, Sally remembered as a swirl of real attraction and lingering reservations. She often had to tiptoe around his moods, especially when fans seemed to praise her more than him. A small but telling incident came during a promo event when a cluster of admirers rushed to Sally for autographs, leaving Burt fuming. She spent the next hour reassuring him, only to wonder why her own success felt like a threat to him. Oscar Glory and Norma Ray validated years of striving. Recalling her time in Alabama's textile mills, she said the hardest part was absorbing the relentless physical labor that defined workers' lives. She took notes, asked questions, and practiced operating machinery just to grasp the drudgery. That dedication produced a fierce, nuanced performance. She'd never looked more unlike the cheery roles of her youth. Hollywood's response was immediate, culminating in her triumphant Best Actress win. Her second Oscar for Places in the Heart further solidified her status. Although the media made much of her "you like me" acceptance speech, it reflected genuine astonishment that the industry had embraced her. She'd spent years auditioning for roles people insisted she couldn't manage. Now, with a pair of Oscars in hand, she was officially a leading actress, and an in-demand one at that. Still, the tension with Burt never completely faded. They broke up and got back together, trying to reconcile their ambitions. Eventually, Sally concluded she couldn't continue under his shadow. She recognized that her mental health was at stake. In the years following their final split, she channeled energy into new creative ventures. Steel Magnolias cast her alongside Dolly Parton, Shirley MacLaine, and Julia Roberts. Though comedic on the surface, its emotional center gave her a chance to exhibit the same raw power she'd shown in Sybil and Norma Ray. Mrs. Doubtfire showcased her comedic side again, playing off Robin Williams's high-energy improvisations. Sally's activism began quietly. After seeing close friends in the LGBTQ+ community struggle with discrimination, she decided to speak out more forcefully. When her son Sam came out, it intensified her commitment. She openly criticized laws that permitted housing or employment bias, stating that acceptance should never be conditional. By the time she portrayed Mary Todd Lincoln, she was in her 60s, a veteran performer ready to embody a deeply complex figure. Director Steven Spielberg initially wavered on casting her, but she insisted on auditioning. In a meeting with Daniel Day-Lewis, both stayed in character for hours to gauge compatibility. Spielberg was convinced, and audiences saw a portrayal of Mary Todd that was both tragic and spirited. Then, decades after Smokey and the Bandit, she recounted behind-the-scenes truths: Burt's controlling inclinations, the terrible script, and how their off-screen issues seeped into filming. She even described her final interactions with Burt before they severed contact for good. When he died in 2018, she felt a mix of sorrow and relief, believing he'd never truly outrun his own demons. Yet her revelations weren't meant to denigrate him alone. They highlighted how complicated relationships in Hollywood can be, especially when two strong-willed stars collide. Through it all, Sally Field remained steadfast in her devotion to truth, whether exploring the darkest corners of a character or exposing painful chapters of her life. That honesty made her performances unforgettable. Looking at Smokey and the Bandit today, viewers see a lighthearted romp drenched in 70s nostalgia. But behind every comedic chase was a woman grappling with personal limits, discovering that sometimes the simplest script can trigger profound change. Perhaps that's the greatest irony of Sally's journey. The silly car chase film that catapulted her into mainstream stardom also tested her boundaries of love and self-preservation. As years have passed, Sally's readiness to discuss her past candidly has become emblematic of her broader legacy, a fearless willingness to face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable. That legacy extends to her activism, her push for nuanced female roles, and her guidance to younger actors who face similar obstacles. With every interview, she reinforces that vulnerability and candor can be strengths, not weaknesses. In an industry that often discourages stars from oversharing, Sally Field dares to show exactly who she is, scars, triumphs, and all. From Gidget to Norma Ray, from Sybil to Mary Todd Lincoln, her work reflects a life spent refusing to let others define her. And the once derided Smokey and the Bandit stands as a testament to how unexpected opportunities can lead to both success and strife. Even now, fans still quote the film's cheeky lines, often oblivious to the storms raging behind the scenes. In many ways, her journey stands as an enduring lesson on heartbreak, transformation, and the absolute necessity of personal truth and authenticity. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.